Hi, you're watching this video if you are planning to retake the graphing quiz. All right, this is a reading that you guys were supposed to read about finding patterns in data sets, and there's some really important things we need to learn on here in order to do well on this quiz. Okay, number one, trends can go a couple ways, okay? They can be looking like this, they can look like this, or they can look like this, right? They can look a whole bunch of different ways. So if a trend on a graph looks like this, a line's going like this is a decreasing trend. Okay, we started at a high point on the y-axis, so up on the 6, and then we decreased all the way down to below 3. Okay, so it starts here and goes down, starts on the top left and goes down to the bottom right. It's a decreasing trend. Okay, this is the opposite. This is an increasing trend. Okay, it starts low on the y-axis, so below the 60, and then we increase all the way up until we get to above the 75. Okay, we look at graphs like we read. We look at them from left to right. The other option you can have is it could just stay the same. So from before October until December in this graph, okay, it stayed the same. So the graph didn't increase or decrease, it just went straight across. If it goes straight across, then that means it is staying the same. All right, let's look at some other examples. Sometimes our lines are not pretty. They go up and down a lot, but we could put a trend line right on top of that, showing us what the general trend of the information is, and that would look like this. And we're saying that this data does go up and down, but in general, it increases over time. Okay, sometimes that looks different. Sometimes it looks like this. Okay, we have a whole bunch of dots and we want to know what is the trend over time. Well, we could put a line straight through this right here, right? And if we did that, then we could see that as income increases, life expectancy increases over time. All right. The other assignment you did was the trends and graphing assignment. There's a couple important things that you learned on here. Number one is how to read a graph. Okay, so let's look at this one, for example. It says, what story does this tell about the temperature of a cooling cup of coffee? So first of all, we always are going to start with the x-axis. What's going on with the x-axis? Well, there is no numbers labeled. So if there's no numbers, we can always assume that this corner right here is going to start with the 0, and then the numbers are going to increase this way. Okay, so this is your 0 and the numbers are increasing this way. That means time is increasing, okay, because we're going along the graph. Time is increasing. So we're going to say, as time increases, because we're going this way along the graph. As time increases, what's happening to temperature? Okay, well, we're going to start at the top and then we're going to go down this way. So what trend is that? Well, we said if we start at the top left and end at the bottom right, it's decreasing, okay? So we have a decreasing trend, but it's not a straight line, so that means something else is going on. We're going to start by having a fast decrease and then it slows down over time. We know it starts fast because this section of our line is closer to a vertical line. The closer to vertical it is, the steeper or faster it's changing. Okay, down here we get closer to horizontal. The more horizontal the line is, the slower it's changing. So we're going to say that as time increases, our temperature of our cup of coffee decreases quickly at first and then more slowly. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, down here we have the amount of fertilizer. The amount of fertilizer is increasing because there's no numbers. We can assume the number is going up. Okay, so 0 up. The amount of fertilizer is increasing. As the amount of fertilizer increases, what happens to our crop yield? Well, it starts here in the middle and first it goes up, right? So it's increasing. And then it's decreasing. So we can say that as the amount of fertilizer increases, our crop yield increases, then levels off, and then decreases, showing us that too much fertilizer can destroy your crops. All right, last thing that you need to be able to do is you need to be able to predict using a graph what comes next. So when we predict, we just continue the lines that we see and say, where would it be if we continued the trend? So let's look at animation. Okay, let's say we want to know what is the animation ticket sales going to be in 2020. Well, let's just continue the graph to see. So there's not a 2020 written here, so we need to imagine it's here. So we can measure the distance from here to here, kind of eyeball and say, okay, 2020 would be about in this spot. Okay, so we're going to bring our cursor up to here and we're going to say, okay, we need that blue animation line to extend to up to here. So if we take that and we imagine it extends till we get about to where we said 2020 is, it's about right here. So then we look over at our number line and we see, okay, we're above 1,600, so maybe 1,700 million ticket sales in 2020 is our estimate. Okay, that's how we predict. We extend the line, imagine it extends to the next point, and tell me what's the number, what is the number of on the y-axis that it would go to if we extended this. Okay, those are the main things that you need to be able to understand in order to do well on the graphing quiz. Please make sure to take your time, read everything carefully. Again, make sure you use the x-axis. So what's going on in the x-axis and the y-axis, okay? So let's do, I guess, one more example. If you had to look at this and explain to me what was going on, you would need to explain it by each line. So for example, I would start maybe with this orange one and say, okay, in the action adventure in 1980, it's increasing till we get to 1990. Then from 1990 to 2000, it's increasing still, but at a slower rate. And then from 2000 to 2010, it's increasing at the fastest rate of all for this line. Okay, that is how we tell what's going on. All right, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask me, but otherwise you are free to go and take the quiz.